Hi, this is Jenna.
And this is Heather.
And this is Conspiracies Unlocked. And today we are going to go over 1984 by George Orwell, Chapter 2, Part 6. And Heather's going to give us a quick recap of what happened in Part 5 last week.
So last week in Part 5, we ended with Winston and Julia. They were debating over the timeline and events of the past and what was real and what was lies from the party. Winston was getting frustrated with Julia because she was just so nonchalant about everything, and he even went as far to say that Julia was only a rebel from the waist down. Which, thankfully, she did laugh off and thought that he was pretty witty for saying so, and she was not offended at all. She was not interested in the ramifications of the party doctrine. She tuned out all conversations regarding doublethink, past realities, Newspeak, or principles of INSOG. So we were reminded how the party imposed itself on the people, which they stated who simply swallowed everything up, which did no harm to them because it left no residue behind, just like grains of corn that will pass undigested through the body of a bird. So basically like mindless sheep.
In one ear, out the other. And that is such a great recap. I think that you should be in charge of all recaps because you just summed up everything just so eloquently. In fact, you used words that we didn't even use on the previous episodes. You just coming up with all sorts of adjectives and large words. Good job, Heather.
Why, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so it starts off, Chapter 2, Part 6 starts off with Winston, I guess George Orwell, saying it finally happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what happened, Winston? What happened? And apparently at the corridor at the ministry, O'Brien came behind him, which if we remember, O'Brien was someone who was part of the 2 Minutes of Hate in the very beginning of the book. He was an upper party member. He is an upper party member. And they had this weird eye-to-eye connection, where he, Winston was kind of feeling like this is bullshit and made eye-to-eye contact with O'Brien, who he thought was saying kind of the same thing, this is bullshit. And so O'Brien came up behind him and Winston's heart bounded violently and he was scared and he wanted to run. And O'Brien put a quote-unquote friendly hand on Winston's arm for just a moment. And they were walking side by side. O'Brien was courteous, which is so different from the other party members. And O'Brien actually praised Winston for his Newspeak articles in the Times. Winston was super humble and said he was only an amateur. And it did not have anything to do with the actual construction of the Newspeak language.
Yeah, so basically he's just I don't have anything to do with the actual construction of the language.
I'm just rolling with the punches here.
Exactly, but O'Brien said that Winston wrote very eloquently.
Oh, no, that's very, that's a good compliment.
That's a nice compliment, yeah.
So O'Brien said someone had brought Winston's writing to his attention, but O'Brien couldn't remember whom. Mm-hmm. And Winston was like, dude, it has to be Sime, S-Y-M-E. Yes, Sime, yeah. Sime, who was vaporized in the last part. And just because he was just so about Newspeak.
Yeah.
And doublethink and all of that. So, he said, where am I? I got confused.
Well,
Sorry.
You were leaving off the...
Yeah. Okay.
Sime was not only dead, he was abolished, he was an unperson.
Any oh my god, why can't I talk? Any identifiable reference to him would have been mortally dangerous. Mm-hmm. So O'Brien obviously is like, no, I'm not going to say his name. Yeah, I forgot who it is, because had he said, hey, your buddy Sime
Yeah.
Time doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah, and in this moment, he never existed.
Yeah, like who the fuck is that? Well, yeah, nobody remembers, especially an upper party member won't remember who that was. So, O'Brien was like speaking in code, and now this would put them both as accomplices in doublethink.
Yeah.
So O'Brien has kind of set them up to be doublethink.
Like a thought crime.
A thought crime. Yeah. And he's an upper party member. So, O'Brien said that Winston had used a word that was obsolete.
He used 2 words.
Okay.
2
Did
words.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He says, you used 2 words which have become obsolete.
Yeah. And O'Brien had said, well, we're using the 10th edition of the Newspeak Dictionary, which if we remember, Syme was working on the 11th edition. Do you remember that from parts ago?
Yeah, but...
And I was like, and then there'll be a 12th and 13th. It'll never end.
But Winston is still using the 9th in the records department.
Yes, that's all they have. So then, O'Brien gave Winston his personal address to his flat.
Which I thought that was pretty, that's pretty crazy because you're not supposed to have friends. You're not supposed to...
No, and there's no directory.
Socialize.
There's no phone book.
Yeah.
There's no way for you to know who lives where, ever. You're not supposed to. Why would you know that?
And the crazy thing is when he gave him the address, he did it right in front of the telescreen.
Yeah, because he's an upper party member. It didn't matter.
But still, that's
I guess, but because,
I don't know, there's a record of him passing it.
Yeah, and because it's for the new edition of the dictionary, I don't know.
Or is it?
Who knows? But what was funny was that O'Brien had said, hey, I'm usually home on the evenings, but if I happen to not be, it's cool, my servant will give it to you. Why the fuck does O'Brien have a servant? Oh, I'm sorry, he's in the top 1%.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
He's a higher up.
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me is O'Brien produced a small leather-covered notebook and a gold ink pencil.
Yeah.
So
how was he able to get all that? But Winston had to go to the shop and... Yeah.
So it just shows, is he allowed to have that stuff because he is 1%?
Yes.
He is then, right?
Yes, because he is a servant. So he has to be allowed to have these special things, like they have the better coffee, the better chocolate. Like Julia was able to con her way into getting all that or whatever. She had to do something, and it wouldn't surprise me if she's fucking O'Brien too.
Ooh, that would make sense.
That would actually.
Because he has access to all of this black market. But it wouldn't even be black market for him. It would just be, he just has access to it.
Yeah, he just has it. So, I'm not sure, but... So, Winston... out of pure habit, just memorized the address and put the note in the memory hole because why are you even gonna fuck with that? It's so. Well, it's just it's habit. You don't want anything weird, and he's just oh, okay, but this isn't right. I don't want nothing to do with this, but at the same time,
he's just so conditioned to just destroy things immediately that he doesn't want to have anything tangible that somebody can go, oh, what's this? Look at this. I found this in your room, or I found this in your pocket, or whatever. If he dropped it on accident, if it got into the wrong hands too, what if somebody who was against O'Brien? Oh
shit! I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, what if somebody was against O'Brien and got a hold of it, and then
the people who are watching the telescreen or whatever, and then found out where.
Big Brother or something is wants to go out and maybe
fuck that. Well, no, Big Brother. Well, I don't know where he would live, but
but somebody
up there. Yeah. So, Winston was positive he's speaking in code at this point, and O'Brien even said, "If you ever want to see me, this is where I can be found." Is what O'Brien had been saying to him, not saying it literally. But as in code, because everybody has to speak in code. So, So Winston was wondering if there was going to be, like, a message in the dictionary, which would be fucking so smart. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think of that, and usually I'm pretty quick at thinking of these, like secretive things, and I didn't even think of that.
I mean, like, yeah, I can see how he might want to try to help him, but if he's using the 9th edition and there's a 10th edition, oh, come and pick it up, get it from my servant, yeah. But, yeah, there's got to be more to it.
Yeah, I think so, too, especially because at first I was like, okay, cool, like, yeah, rendezvous, like, come to my house, quote-unquote, pick up the dictionary, but really I'm going to take you into my study and we're going to talk a little with no telescreens, because you know he doesn't have telescreens in his...
Yeah, no.
Or if he does, it's only a few parts of his house, not every last inch of his house, you know?
And it would be interesting, too, if Winston did be able to have a conversation with the servant, because you know how servants usually know and hear things that, like, no one else does?
I think the servant would be fucking scared shitless to say anything.
Probably, but you never know. Loose lips, you know?
Loose lips makes the sink ship. Or what? Ship sink. Loose lips makes the...
Loose lips sinks ships. Which I don't even know if that's the right way to say it. But
we have no idea.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so... He had said that he was going to get the dictionary at some point, but didn't know if it was going to be that night, which I'd be like leaving work right that second. But at the same time, Winston is such a patient person because he knows that there's so much to lose that he's like, maybe I'll get it tomorrow, maybe, you know, a week from now, just kind of whenever, just to make sure.
And also, he's been risking so much with his rendezvous with Julia.
Oh, for sure.
He doesn't want to mess that up. So it's like, you know...
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So he goes on to talk about a process that started years ago. Mm-hmm. Do you have a lot of comment about that? Because, okay, so step 1, he said, was an involuntary thought. Step 2, opening the diary, which made thoughts to words. Step 3, words to action. Step 4, something will happen in the ministry of love. And a frightening death, where he would feel a little less alive, and the grave is inevitably waiting for him.
Yeah, I didn't really understand all the different steps. Honestly, I read that like a couple times fast.
Yeah.
But I think that in the next chapter, because this is a pretty short chapter, like that's pretty much the end of it, that we'll probably get into it more, I'm hoping, because I didn't really understand what the steps and what all, like, especially pertaining to the ministry of love, like how does that...
Yeah, so what I was thinking was maybe, maybe he's, like, looking back. Like, you know when you look back at things and you're like, oh, everything's meant to be because of this. Maybe he's looking back.
Like fate.
Like fate. And
or
you're looking
serendipity.
Back. Yes. That's exactly the word I was thinking of, too.
Yeah.
That, like, it was supposed to happen, and he's looking back, and he's like, oh, shit, like, I did have these, like, involuntary thoughts of, like, the people are bad, and, you know... Mm-hmm. And then he got the diary. He put those thoughts into words. Mm-hmm. And then the words became actions when O'Brien did actually approach him. So then he's like, well, fuck, I wasn't just daydreaming that. That's saying. Real life.
So it's almost like he manifested everything happening in a way.
Yeah, and so he's like, maybe, like, this actually started years ago, and it's coming to life, you know? And then something will happen in the ministry of love. I don't know, but I'm thinking maybe it has to do with Julia because he wants to, like, marry her and...
Or, like, love conquers all.
Okay, I'm the Disney fanatic and I didn't get that. And then he's like... But then at the same time, he's like, and in the end, I die. That's it. Like, obviously, like, nobody gets out alive. And this path is never going to lead to... not death. He's gonna be vaporized.
Yeah, I mean, he had the sensation of stepping into the dampness of the grave. I mean, that's pretty, like...
Yeah.
Like, he felt that
in
his bones. Like, he felt what it would be like.
Yeah, he's like, I can already feel it happening. It's gonna happen. This is bullshit. I'm done. Like, this is, like... It's almost like when you're, like, dancing with the devil.
It's like almost like he was having a panic attack in a sense.
Right, exactly. But it's like almost, yeah, it's just, he's like, he can already picture it. He can already, like, feel like this is as good as this path feels, it's like, I know I'm gonna die. Everything is gonna be destroyed.
It's kind of a sad way to live.
Yeah, but we've already seen him like that, and he's already been living like that. You know, we can see that with the conversations he has with Julia, that's obviously what it's gonna be and what it's gonna turn out to be. They will never get out. They will never. It's just hopeless. Mm-hmm. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm just like, it's fucking hopeless. Winston will never get out alive.
No, he will either be vaporized because of his rendezvous with Julia
or O'Brien.
Or O'Brien. At this rate, who knows? Something that he doesn't incinerate something sometime, and then they catch him, or the diary, his own diary,
or which he hasn't been writing in that a lot.
Yeah,
we haven't heard about the diary in probably like 80 pages.
I think probably because now his extra time he spends with Julia.
I think so too, and that's why he doesn't drink the gin, and that's why, you know, all that. Mm-hmm. He's all happy, and he doesn't yell at the screen. He's just like, it's cool. He has like butterflies, and he's all happy. He's all like,
happy until he sees O'Brien, and now he's like, crap, now what does this mean? I have to go over there, and hopefully there is going to be some kind of message in the diary, and it's more than just
dictionary.
Dictionary, and more than him just wanting him to have the latest edition.
Dictionary. Yeah, hopefully there's a secret message. Well, there would be no reason. There wouldn't be a book if there wasn't.
Yeah.
And we're only like a little over halfway through, so he has to survive for at least another month or two, right?
He will.
Maybe he does change everybody's mind, and they just go off into the sunset. Him and Julia. And he finds out that Catherine's dead.
Catherine would have to be dead, yeah.
Yes, and he changes everybody's mind, and they just go off into the sunset and find a farm somewhere. I don't fucking know.
They can watch the thrush dancing in the clearing.
The open field thing. Yeah. We're romantics. Okay, well, that was it. It was a super short chapter. It was literally like 4 pages. So, that's that. But, yeah, we'll see you next week for part 7.
We're all like, where are we at?
I don't even know. Okay, well, like, share,
subscribe, TikTok, Facebook,
email us,
Instagram,
whatever you want us to talk about.
YouTube.
Email us.
conspiraciesunlocked@gmail.com. Please email us and tell us how much you love us.
Or what you want to hear about next.
Yes, please.
Or any books you want to hear about. Because we'll be done with this in a couple months. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.
Thank you.